everybody! Today I'm going to teach you how to make a handmade sketchbook using materials that you have around your house and in your pantry. I'll show you how to do two different styles in two different sizes, and I encourage you to get creative and modify as you need. Start by taking a cereal box or something similar like crackers, any lightweight cardboard, and flatten it out by detaching the seams. Style number one is a more traditional bookbinding stitch that uses 3 holes and embroidery thread to bind the pages permanently to the cover. For this style, you'll need a needle and thread, a pencil and scissors, and a thumbtack can also be helpful. For the full-size sketchbook size, you're going to start out by folding 8.5 by 11 copy paper in half. You do want to make sure that you crease it really well. I'm using, I think, about 7 or 8 pages here. Next, you're going to lay one of the pieces of paper flat on top of your cereal box and line up both seams so that you can size your cover. So here I trimmed off all of the edges first, and then I kept putting the paper back in the middle to sort of judge the different sides. I trimmed it a little bit here and there. You can measure if you'd like, but I kind of just did it by sight. Next, you're going to need to measure and punch holes in each paper individually for the pages. So I'm using a ruler, but you can eyeball it if you'd like, and I make 3 holes. The top and the bottom are about 1.5 inches from the edge, and the center is in the center. So this is going to be my template page. So I'm going to use this paper to punch holes through all the other ones. So to punch holes in this paper, I'm just using an extra sharp pencil. I'm going to put one of my pages behind it, line it up really carefully, and then punch holes through my template paper onto that second page, so that second page gets a hole punched through it too. So it is important to be precise and patient here. You can use a needle if that works well for you, or extra sharp pencils, and you're going to do this for each and every page individually. Finally, using this same template page, you're going to punch holes in your cover. This is a little bit trickier because it's cardboard, so I actually punched it from both sides, first from the inside, and then I went back on the outside to kind of make the holes a little bit bigger. Next, you'll take all of your pages and open them up like a book so that you have one packet of pages that's ready to be bound. Now it's time to bind your pages to the cover. I like to have the blank cardboard side facing out so that I can draw on it, but you can choose either way you'd like. Measure out 3 lengths of embroidery thread and go ahead and thread your needle. Okay, so the order that we bind our book in is very important. You're going to start with the outside going in, and you're going to start with the center hole. So make sure that there's a little tail hanging off the end so that you don't lose your thread. And then I like to put my pages down like a tent and then poke the needle through the center hole, each page individually. This, like everything else, takes patience, but take your time because the end product is totally worth it. Once you're through the center hole, you're going to gently pull on the thread so that the pages and the cover come together, and so that you still have that thread hanging off of the back. All right, now you're going to go to the top hole, and you're just going to go from the inside back out to the cover. Once you get your needle through all of those pages, you're going to go through the cover back to the outside where you began, and you can check your work by seeing that you have one neat stitch in the center of your book. Finally, you're going to go through the bottom hole from the outside, going back to the inside of the book, gently pulling the needle and the thread through that bottom hole and going back through the center hole to the outside. You'll have 2 inner stitches, and you can gently pull on the thread to give it some tension so that it's nice and tight. Then you'll want to tie a double knot with the 2 ends, making sure that you're placing that seam, that piece that's going up and down, in the center. So I'm just going to tie a double knot. You can also do a bow or something fancy if you want to, but this secures your book and prevents it from coming apart. Congratulations, you now have a bound book that is ready to decorate. So to cover up the logo of the box, I like to use magazine pages and tape as a really quick and easy way. So as you can see, I measured sort of a rectangle shape that can fit on the inside of my box, cut out some textures that I liked, and I'm just going to center them and use tape, any kind of tape, to adhere them to the box. You can really use any kind of paper to decorate the inside cover. Wrapping paper, grocery bag paper, maybe you want to put a blank page in there so that you can draw on it, or put a little book plate in there. And then I'm just using masking tape, but you can use lots of different types of tape to cover it up. If you chose to have the blank cardboard side out, then you have a blank canvas that's ready for decorating. Here I just did one of my favorite doodles, which is sort of this like toothpaste wave design kind of thing, but you can do whatever you'd like. So this second style of sketchbook uses a stapler to hold the pages together and string and tape to make the binding. The cool thing about this one is that you can actually keep adding to it if you want your sketchbook to keep going. For the small size, I tore 8.5 by 11 copy paper in half by creasing it a couple of times very tightly and then tearing it carefully. You could also measure and cut with scissors if you wanted it to be more precise. Next, you'll fold each page in half, just like you did before, and put them together like a little booklet. For this style, you don't need a seam that already exists on the box. You're going to cut out 2 separate panels that are rectangles or the shape of your pages that match and have a consistent border width around your pages. You can see here I tested my pages and I made adjustments with my scissors. Next, you're going to find some tape that will be the binding between your 2 covers. I recommend using duct tape, but painter's tape or masking tape will also work in a pinch. So you're going to lay a piece of tape out with the sticky side up and then gently place your covers on either side of the tape so you have about 1/2 inch in between. You're going to press down firmly, pull the tape down and secure it, and then tear your piece of tape and fold it up so that it meets the seam and all of the stickiness is covered up. This gives you a flexible binding that can move around and also can hold a lot of pages inside of it. Now it's time to bind your pages together into little booklets. You can use the binding method that we used before with the needle and thread. However, it's a lot faster, especially for this size paper, just to use a stapler. To staple a piece of paper that is larger than a stapler, the trick is to fold the page under gently, not too far, but just a little bit, so that you can reach the seam with your stapler. The bend in the paper is only temporary, and it's a pretty good quick fix if you're in a pinch. So next we're going to bind these pages to our cover. You can use string, or if you have any stretchy elastic, that works really well too, but anything that you can use to keep this attached to your binding. Measure out a length of string that is just longer than 2 lengths of your book so that you have room to tie. And you're going to lay the string in the middle, of the pages and the cover, flip to the back, and tie a double knot with the string. The really fun thing about this method is that you can interchange these little books and you can swap out the pages and add as many as you'd like. So I'm going to show this with 2 of the small page books inside, but you could have 3, you could have 4, you could have 5. Just make sure that you have enough room in your binding. So I'm going to do the same thing and make sure that the tension is tight when I tie the string to the binding. Trim your edges, and then you'll see that these pages can move freely about with the binding. Now I'll show you a second method for decorating the inside covers of your book. Another thing to mention is that you could have a fun edge on your sketchbook if you'd like, as I cut sort of a zigzag pattern. So in this second method, I'm just using a glue stick to glue a piece of paper. Here it's a found center of an envelope to the inside and the outside cover. You'll notice that I cut the paper way bigger than the cover. That's because when I do it this way, I like to glue it first, let it dry a little bit, and then trim off the edges carefully so that it's a perfect fit. And there you go. Sketchbooks all made from materials that you have inside your home, many of them recycled materials. If you don't like the way that the binding looks, you can take a piece of tape and cover up the string, and use whatever materials you'd like to decorate your cover. I'm using a marker, but I know you guys can be more creative than this. Thanks so much for watching, and my students tell me that I'm supposed to say like and subscribe, so like and subscribe!